I'm Dennis Mojado, amateur radio call sign Alpha Delta 6 Delta Mike, and this is the Hamdom Thoughts Podcast. This is a podcast about amateur radio, prepping, software, and tinkering. Today, again, a solo interview. What am I saying? Interview? Today, a solo podcast with just me. I actually have some excerpts from the Pacificon Ham Radio Convention. It is ARRL's convention every October. And this one I was able to attend in person. And so I wanted to share with you some of the things that happened there. Well, actually just some recordings of the things that happened there. I wanted to lead off with an event called Breakfast with Gordo. Gordon West was there, WB6NOA, and he did kind of a stand-up act, but also talked quite a bit while a bunch of hams ate breakfast in the banquet hall. So let's give that a listen.
2019, we stay away from negative people. 2020, we stay away from positive people.
I know. Gordo took the other one, so, you know, it's all his fault.
Well, it's obvious I need to practice social distancing from my refrigerator.
Oh, this is very true. I love this one. You know, all of us as hams will spend hundreds of dollars on a new rig. And then we wander around through the ham fest, and we pause each time we pass the booths that sell $7 embroidered call sign hats, thinking, wonder if they'll take 6. Now, we've all been working from home during COVID. You know, everybody had to find something to do. And I was walking along, and I saw a burglar. But he was kicking in his own door. And I asked him, what are you doing? Working from home.
No, these aren't any better. What I've always wanted to know is, what happens? What happens if you get scared half to death twice? I guess you did. And all hands have done this, okay? If everything seems to be going well, you obviously overlook something. And I'm sorry for that.
I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but England has no kidney bank, but they do have a liver pool. And for all those hams out there who believe in psychokinesis, raise my hand. And repeat after me.
Put your heels together 3 times and say there's no place like Rome.
Come on up, Joe. Hi, good morning. Oops, a little bit too loud there. Good morning. I got to play Whiskey 1 Alpha Whiskey Portable 6 last night. I came out about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I forget what it was. There were 2-3 other stations. I was on 80 meters, had a great time, made about 6 or 7 contacts. So I'm sitting in the dark, watching all the needles move. You know, I don't know how much power you guys are running on that tower, but it was very, very, very impressive. My hat's off to whoever put that station together. So I'm sitting there keying on the foot switch and having a great time. The question comes to me, I'm in the dark. So what is the speed of dark? Okay, number two. So I'm sitting there still keying on the mic, and it says, I thought, if I could travel at the speed of light, would my headlights still work?
All right, let's give our Lake Arrowhead and Terra folks a big hand. All right, monsters, you may now go back to your table. Thank you, that was great. Well, you know it's been quite a year, quite 2 years of all this COVID stuff, and we've made some recordings. And you know, a lot of you went out of your way to put some of the rest homes on the air with some of the old-time hams. And I think it's heartening to hear some of these old-time hams on the air that we've not heard for a long time. And some of them are engineers. And here was one of our engineer hams. He's up there, he's on 160 meters, but he's on the air. That was QC10. I think he was trying to do CQ10, but nonetheless, there you go. And we always love the spirit of CWCQ. That's a Q. That's an N. N. Pile up, and they're calling you. Make out your call sign. Randy, I heard your call. Oh, good job, Randy. Randy with Ham Nation, good to have you with us today, Randy. So, you know, we all weathered this storm. And we did some different things. Imagine pounding a signal off the moon. Yeah, moon bounce. People still do it. Are we nuts or what, doing moon bounce? And of course, meteor scatter. Boy, that's something you can't do on some of the digital modes. You got to be fast for meteor scatter.
Well, this is Paul, K6ATME.
And there's Paul for the long-haul beacons that are coming in. So this is neat stuff that ham radio has brought to us. And there's new modes, certainly the FT8, the JST, and all of the other modes. This is excitement. I think ham radio is undergoing a lot of different changes, a lot of different modes, and you never know what's going to happen next. Well, here's something that we heard about the other day. This was on the 5 megahertz band. How many on 60 meters, 5 megs? Well, there's a couple. All right, well, 5 megs is fun. One evening, the ham's wife walked into the shack and told the ham who was on the air that there was a problem with a light in the kitchen. Well, the ham was in the middle of a QSO and figured it's probably just a stupid light bulb that had burned out. Wanted her to deal with it. He switched off the mic, turned to her and said, "Who do I look like, Thomas Edison? Get it fixed." Well, the next day when he got home from work, his wife told him the light needed more attention than just a new bulb. So she called the electrician. The bill came to $250. Gold. He groaned. He said, "Well," said the wife, "I worked it out. I told him that the bill was a lot more I wanted to spend, so he offered to trade for something." He said he would do the work for free if I baked him a homemade apple pie, or if I could get him one of those very old, look like a Collins radios in your workshop. The ham gasped. He said, "What did you bake the pie, right?" He says, "Who do I look like, Betty Crocker?" The guys, watch out. When she says something needs to be fixed, you better do that. And how many have woken up with your wife and you had a little trouble breathing? Well, I have the most loving wife, Susie. She says hi, she's fine, she's down there taking care of business in Costa Mesa. But the other night I woke up while with her and she was was holding a pillow tightly over my face. She said to protect me from COVID-19. And it's fun being back here at the hotel. They have done a great job, and Pacificon has done a good job. And the hotel still has those labels that we saw 3 years ago. The hairdryer says, "Do not use while sleeping." Okay, I'll buy that. I found in the shower a bar of Dial soap, and the direction says, "Use like regular soap." Okay, all right. The best was the hotel provided shower cap, fits one head. Okay, all right. How many going to the swap meet tomorrow morning? Yeah, I want to see you all out there. But as you're going to the swap meet tomorrow morning, today in the daylight, because I know you're going to get there early, take a look at the ATV. Now, we had a joke about ATVers and driving four-wheel and going, no, not that AT, amateur television. The Amateur Television Network, right outside the doors here, Mike Donald, Gary, and Team and oh yes, and certainly all the great work that you've done, have brought together, how many units would you bring? Nice and loud?
How many, what, where?
Yeah, tell them about your unit in 5 words or less.
It's a big white truck out there with a tower on it.
Yeah, big white truck in the tower, Gary.
Well, there's a big blue truck out there with a taller tower on it.
Yeah. Anyway, be sure to take a look at Amateur Television. It's out there on display, and we link up with them every Tuesday down in Southern California, and it's neat gear. And thank you all for embracing the new technology of not only live television, but high definition. That's really scary, high definition. That's scary that they're showing me on there for sure. Finally, when you're at the swap meet tomorrow, read the signs on the equipment. They're important. One sign 3 years ago says, "I don't know if it works." Actually, it doesn't work, probably never has. Another one had a big, huge sign that says, "No sign of chirp on CW." Because it doesn't transmit. And this rig had a real popular sign that says, "Popular rig in its day." Yeah, there were whole HM Nets and QST magazine wrote about it and gave it a really bad review with the language that you've never read before in QST. I wouldn't buy that rig. And then there was a rig saying, "It doesn't chirp." It doesn't chirp because it doesn't transmit. Yeah, we did that one. It works great at full power. Sucks it all out of the wall. Last sign on a big rig said it worked last time I used it. It'd still be working if I'd still be using it. I blew that one. If it worked, I'd still be using it. There we go. Finally, had a sign on one of the rigs said it might need a bit of tweaking. Marconi himself couldn't tweak it, couldn't fix it or align it. The best one was, I plugged it in and it lights up. The lights were 2-foot flames coming out of the house. Finally, I had it on the air last night. You thought the woodpecker went away, huh? Down in Southern California, we get this a lot. This rig is really hot. It's stolen. Yeah. Well, exercising during the COVID epidemic can add years to your life. For example, I exercised this morning and now I feel like I'm 104. Add years to your life. Well, that one didn't work. All right, we're getting down there. But as we do, what a 2 years. But you know, ham radio's been great for us. We've been able to get on the air. We don't have to wear a mask. Although sometimes down on 75, we've got to put our earplugs in. Not earphones, but earplugs in. But we made it through, and thanks to all of you for making ham radio so much fun. Finally, next to the last pun, and by the way, you Lake Arrowhead punsters, NTARA, you were the best, thank you. And there'll be more, I'm sure, later. The number of jokes about coronavirus has reached worrying numbers. Scientists claim we're in the middle of a pandemic. Remember, he who laughs last thinks the slowest. The front row right here. So enjoy today. We've got who's who and vendors that are here. Some of the vendors are out for the very first time. This is one of the few shows, especially on the West Coast, that are opening up again. So you are among an elite group that are braving the big C and a B and making it happen. So wear those masks, and I just want to say on behalf of Pacificon and all the hard workers, do we have Pacificon workers over there? Come on over here, young lady, and I want you to end tonight. You don't even have to do a pun, but I just want to say every one of your volunteers have been super. So name and call and a few words, and then we're all going out and going for a swim in the pool.
Thank you all for coming. How about Gordon West? We are so pleased that you all came out for Pacificon 2021. Can't thank you enough. We would not be able to do this without all of your support. There is a new speaker on at 3, so check the boards and make sure you check for all of the vendors that will be opening at 9 a.m. Any questions or any problems? I'm sitting out at the COVID check station. I get to check everybody, make sure everybody's safe. Come see me, and I'll do what I can to make your day very pleasurable. But thank you again for all coming.
So have fun out there. In about another half hour, we are going to have a very interesting seminar with Tracy and Jody and Kevin with BioWinnow Power. And we're going to do the big shootout between a lead-acid battery and a BioWinnow battery. This actually has twice the capacity as this battery here. We're going to light stuff off. We're going to smoke things. What else are we going to do?
No jokes.
We're actually going to short this battery out, and then we're going to short out this one, and we'll see which one goes up in smoke.
And we've already checked it. We've turned off the sprinklers.
And Kevin has also donated, and we'll have a prize drawing for one of his BioWinnow batteries. But if you ever wonder what's inside here, and he's got the big 100 amp hour battery, no, it won't start your car, but it will power something for 100 amp hours. So understand that these are, what, 3.2, 3.6 volt cells inside here?
Yeah, 3.3.
3.3, I was close. And
Close doesn't count.
they're long lasting. They won't have quite the capacity of full cranking amps as a regular lead acid battery. Heck, as hams, we don't need the cold cranking. We just need something that goes and goes and goes.
Well, now you just gave my whole presentation, Kevin, in my presentation.
So have fun today, take in all of those exhibitors, and be sure and come back here in about another 30 minutes, meet up with Kevin, and we've got about a 45-minute ham instructor academy featuring volts, amps, a little bit of water pressure to keep you all on your feet. Oh, finally, remember this? How many remember this? I see 2 hands. Oh my God. There you go. No, it's not a hot dog cookie. There you go. It is a Diet Coke. So, 73 all.
And next, I want to share a recording of a partial bit of the Winlink discussion. I was pretty inspired by this one. So here's the backstory of this one. I was meeting up with a bunch of other hams, JerryNet hams. So Rex, KE6MT, Jeff, AA6XA, and Dan, AI6XG. They are 3 soda nuts. They always do summits on the air. They always like to climb the peaks around here in the Sierras and Northern California area. And some of them travel pretty far. Like I know Dan recently went to Wisconsin and looked for soda peaks out there. So they were peer pressuring me, of course. I had brought my IC705, my ICOM, with me. But in my packing, I forgot my mic. And I also forgot my key. So basically, I just had the radio and an antenna. And this was a bummer. But then, of course, me being forgetful, they brought extras. So they were still peer pressuring me to join them. And I think the peak that they wanted to go on was called Rocky Ridge, which is just a couple miles from the hamvention or the convention grounds. And I was game for it, but then I realized that this Winlink presentation was about to happen. It was at 4 o'clock on Saturday, and it really blew me away. I'm so glad that I went. I felt bad not going with my buddies up the mountain, but at the same time, it really pushed me forward. This presentation pushed me forward to understanding more about the pieces behind a Winlink gateway. Not just using Winlink, but actually being a relay, like a mail station, a gateway for others to be able to connect to and send emails. So let's give that a listen.
The last one is our Walnut Creek CERT network that we have created. This one is a standalone RMS, as I showed you. So you can see our equipment. We're up to 14 field stations. We are using DRA50 sound cards and a Linko DR135 radios in the field with a Windows laptop. So we have 8 CERT command posts in Walnut Creek. We have the City of Walnut Creek's Public Works, the maintenance people, their operations center. The alternate EOC location is truly important. If you remember back to the Napa earthquake, Napa, California earthquake a few years ago, their EOC was in a severely damaged building and never was able to activate in that earthquake. So what we've created is a portable EOC location which can be put anywhere the city directs. It's simply a laptop with Winlink Express on it, sound card, and radio. And all we have to do is send emails to a different location. Martinez OES is the county's, Contra Costa County's Office of Emergency Services. If their web EOC goes down, we have a way of relaying emails from the Walnut Creek EOC to the Martinez County OES. We have a system admin login. And then finally, we have what's called a CERT liaison, which helps the EOC assemble the strategic picture of what we know is going on in CERT for the city. CERT are our EOC radio operators. If they're mobile, they can use VARA. And if they're on site, they use Telnet via a wired network over the LAN jack of our computer. So what we did for the alternate EOC was we're going to install RMS packet and relay in the laptop. We just won't turn it on. If we have a disaster at City Hall, we can activate this simply by starting 2 programs. And all of a sudden, we're right back up as an alternate EOC. So, to make a long story short, this whole network is solar and battery powered in field. with turbine backup power at City Hall. We're not using the internet, we're not using HF. And the whole network runs simplex, 20 to 30 watts, and we use VARA FM wide because it's so significantly faster than backup. So that is the Walnut Creek CERT network. Now, these are our live demo setups. We have to do a little bragging about the sophisticated equipment setup we have. Don's about 4 miles away, at least he was until he parked in my driveway. And he's using 2 radios, a Kenwood TH74A handheld, which is connected via Bluetooth. And we're using that for packet. And we're using an Winlink DR135 and DRA50 for VARA FM wide. And I'm sitting at a table with an HP laptop, DRA50 card, just sort of hiding behind the laptop, and a Yaesu FTM, and it's feeding a dual band whip on my carport roof. One of the things about sound modem that we really like is it has this very nice waterfall display, which is a really good frequency monitor. Even if you're not using packet, you can turn sound modem on, it doesn't hurt a thing, and let it monitor the frequency for you, which is really kind of nice. So Don, we're all set for the packet Winlink. Go ahead. Don is going to aim his packet session at K9ONR-10, which is the packet destination. And you can watch the waterfall right here and see N6 PRZ come in. And you notice the bandwidth of the packet is right between these 2 little things. The center frequency of this is 1700. It's using a very tight bandwidth right through here. When you see this gibberish, you sent your message. Okay, we'll let it finish. And there we go. So now we have received that message. Now in order to retrieve that, I'm going to do something real quick here. I'm going to dump this gateway, because I only have 1 radio and sound card. And I'm going to bring up Winlink Express, which will allow me to go in. So now what I'm going to do is establish, since I'm running a gateway, I use Telnet to reach CMS. So I'm going to open up a session called Telnet Winlink and start it. And this uses my computer's Ethernet internet connection. And now I have messages from Don. And they will appear right here in my inbox. And when I click on it, I actually get his full-blown fancy form of his Winlink check-in message. And you notice he sent it by packet. And you have the ability to attach files. So I'm going to attach a file that I prepared. And this is an ICS 309, which is a very wonderful thing. Basically, it allows you to record everything that has gone on your station instead of manually logging this. So I'm going to send this using VARA to Don. So we're going to open up, and you notice all of the Winlink sessions are here, and below it are the peer-to-peer sessions, and below those are the radio only. So what I'm going to do is open up a VARA FM peer-to-peer connection. Now the warning about this is the only way to get this out of your inbox is if somebody opens up a peer-to-peer session. If I open up a Winlink session, this message goes nowhere because it is peer-to-peer. So let me open up a session. N6PRZ, are you ready? All right. You notice it even says here, peer-to-peer session. We've agreed on the frequency, and I'm trying to reach him by his call sign. All I have to do is start it. Now, VARA will go fairly slowly until it sees that it has data to send, in which case it has adaptive speed, and it will start going a lot faster. Oops. Okay, for some reason, Don, we did not work. Oh, yeah, do you see, I didn't set this up as a peer-to-peer. I set it as Winlink, which explains why it didn't work. All I have to do is toggle it to peer-to-peer. That was my mistake. Close it. Open that session again. Are you ready to receive? Just open. And I'll press start again. Start again. So that's a real good way of catching yourself. It didn't move out of my outbox because I was trying to send it as a Winlink message. This way we'll send it as VARA instead. This time we should be able to see VARA behave itself a little bit more. And you notice I'm already up to 14.4. That's just a touch faster than packet. And you can see this green bar go across the page as the message is sent. You can actually see the speed this thing is going. Now, to be real clear, this is licensed VARA wide. And this is 3 full pages of text, which is probably more than you would normally send. And we are done. Okay? So that's the speed of VARA. If I had tried to do that on packet, it probably would have taken 5 minutes at least with exclusive airtime.
Lastly, I want to share with you this QRP build event that happened on Saturday night. Now, this is sponsored by the QRP Forum. You can find them on groups.io under CalQRP. And this group, they did a QRP QSO party and the previous night, on Friday night. And I thought that this QRP QSO party was an actual QSO party. You know, every state has a QSO party. So there will be the California QSO party on a given date. There will be the Tennessee QSO party, etc. Well, this one for Pacificon, I had the impression was a tradition, and that this QRP QSO party would be a bunch of hams getting on the air with their QRP radios and trying to make contacts all over the country and all over the world. As it turns out, it was only about a 1 hour long event. So 7 to 8, I believe, or maybe 7 to 9. I'm not sure. But anyway, there was a CW portion to it, and then there was an SSB side to it. And each of those was a very short period. I want to say it was about 30 minutes to an hour. Maybe it's an hour. But as it turned out, everyone was just making QSOs with each other in the parking lot. So all of 50 feet apart, or however big 100 feet as the max DX on that one, it was pretty saturated pretty quickly. Everyone got everyone else. And so I was, again, without key or antenna and no mic. So I just went around taking pictures and hanging out with Jeff and with Dan. Jeff asked me if I wanted to go on CW. So I was like, sure. I hopped on, got completely obliterated by a person. I don't even remember his call because it was just so fast I didn't really pick it up. I just responded with his RST signal report and said, you are 599, of course. It's 599 plus, you know. And I just stopped after one contact because I was like, that was way too fast. I would say it was like 30 words per minute. I picked up a letter here and there. But anyway, that was Friday night. So this QRP forum, this group, seemed to have events every night, which I really, really appreciate. I mean, it really made the convention for me to have something that was active and hands-on. And so Saturday night, they had this build event, and they started off with a little introduction by an 89-year-old guest or 88-year-old guest. His name was Lee WA6IRL. And he talked a bit about the military radios that they had at the back of the room, a bunch of replicas, a bunch of reconstructions, and that's what this recording here is, so you could listen to him.
And the Germans surrounded the village and told me to surrender or we're going to kill everybody in the village. So that Marine Corps unit did surrender. It's Marines again served in Europe in the OSS. A version of this was commonly used by the OSS to listen. It's a receiver, not a transmitter. And they would get instructions by way of the broadcast bands and shortwave. You can spot the OSS version very easily next to the indicators for frequency, painted on the outside were the frequencies they wanted you to listen to in yellow. And that's an OSS radio if you ever find one. And they're out there. I had one. Next radio, is the this little gem here. That's the battery box. This is the radio, and nicknamed the Sweetheart. It was designed by a man in Norway who escaped Norway when it was occupied, went to Great Britain, and designed this little radio. It has 3 tubes, IT4, and it's regenerative. And again, its purpose was to listen to what the British had to say. And it came in a variety of versions with an instruction plate attached. And most of them that are in captivity are Swedish. And the instructions are in Swedish. But there are pictures of the English language version. 50,000 of these were built. 4,500 of them went to Norway. So where are all the rest of them? And we only have photographs of one of them. So that's the version I copied, was the English language version.
So Lee, that's a copy, right?
That's a copy. Yeah, oh yeah. That was a pain, believe me. I had to learn metalworking of a different kind. The case is steel, not aluminum, and it doesn't give up very easily. The next 2 sets are paraset copies. These are replicas, and the reason I brought them is because one of them has a little different interior in the sense that the knobs are different, because replica knobs weren't available. They are now, and people are doing it all over the place. They're making these replicas. These replicas were made in about 2004. And based on a design that was in electric radio. And 1 Italian and 2 Frenchmen wrote about the thing, and pretty soon it was just like wildfire. Everywhere in the world, people were copying parasets. And Hiroki Kato, one of your colleagues here, wrote a book about them. And that book is for sale now. It's kind of interesting, and there's endless stories that could go on all day. There was a British club that was just enamored of the Pyroset to such an extent that they copied the resistors. They copied the condensers. They copied virtually everything in it, exactly as an original. Reprinted labels, did all kinds of interesting stuff. And they literally drove amateurs out, because some amateurs aren't up to doing that kind of copying. They just don't want to do it. And I can't blame them. You can only carry it so far. I restored military vehicles for a number of years, and one of the people would say, well, it isn't an exact restoration. Well, of course not. We don't have World War II oil in it, World War II gasoline, and World War II air in the tires. You know, you can only carry it so far. One of the mistakes I made, and it's a big one, is I didn't use metric threaded bolts and nuts. But anyway, there are faults in all of them. The next radio that you see is in a wooden box. The box was made from wood from the Hooker oak, which was the largest oak tree in California by girth, and it was later discovered when it died that it was actually 2 trees in one. But nonetheless, there's the vintage wood there. That particular radio was designed for the British Diplomatic Corps. And they would chase it around all over the world, and it put out about 35 watts CW. And this is the large version. There is another version of it that's half the size, but it has a separate power supply. This one has a completely built-in power supply. And that was a bit of a challenge. Finding material to make fake sheet bakelite became a real problem. But there's an outfit in Texas that makes a plastic that is laminated with paper and functions and mills and looks just like genuine bakelite. And so that stuff is out there available. The ARRL 2 is the one radio next to it that Doug was talking about, and that's a regenerative receiver and pretty straightforward little device, and it works very well. And the hardest thing about that was finding the paint. Well, we found it, and it's manufactured. And the way it was discovered was I called every paint company I could find to find out if anybody made wrinkle finish brown paint. And there was this silence at the end of the phone, and they'd say, well, what do you want it for? And I finally called Krylon. And Krylon makes spray paints of all kinds. And they said, well, you have to speak to the engineers. We don't know anything about that wrinkle stuff. And the engineer got on the phone. He says, well, what do you want it for? And I said, I'm trying to restore a vintage radio that has the exact look of the proper age. And he says, well, I can help you. Oh, really? The paint for that thing is the same paint that Kennedy Toolbox uses. And they supply Kennedy with touch-up paint for Kennedy Toolbox collectors. And it's $40 a can. And I asked them, I said, why is it so expensive? They had to protect their jobbers. Well, what do you mean? Well, get in touch with one of our jobbers, and they have this same paint for much less money. Well, I did. It was $20 a bottle, or spray can. Now we're getting down to reality. This guy, this engineer at Krylon, is a ham radio operator. The fate of what you're doing is really kind of strange. The radio was used throughout Great Britain, as Doug said, by the listening stations. Many of them were listening to exactly the same frequency to make sure there were no mistakes. And they listened to everything, every civil transmission, every personal transmission the Germans had, military. It didn't make any difference what it was. They wanted it in writing. And that was that post office box he mentioned. And the listening people, many of them, still won't divulge the fact that they did it. The secrecy was so important. The power supplies were common batteries. And so a fake battery was constructed, and it's got 9-volt batteries inside it, and it's got a couple others, and it'll provide all the proper voltages. And this is really how the thing has evolved as Topsy. And if people are interested, this is just the World War II stuff. We can go beyond that into post-World War II, and some of that is pretty darned interesting. And you've seen it here in swap meets and stuff like that. You've actually seen some of this stuff and sort of ignored it because it was low power and, well, old military junk and boat anchors. But this is the hobby that I'm into, is finding them and restoring them in the sense of I build replicas, not restorations, total restorations. And that's about it, Doug.
Great.
So that was a great talk that he did. He kind of introduced the build event for us. And then after that, we each bought a kit. I thought it was going to be, according to the schedule, the Pacificon schedule, it was going to be a Morse code trainer that we were going to build. And I was like, what am I getting myself into? But I was already caught up in the momentum. Turns out we were building a Michigan Mighty Mite transmitter, which is a small board that has a bunch of loose components and a crystal and a makeshift key with a piece of metal as well as a few other things to allow you to plug in a external key if you want, and 2 BNC connectors, one for receive and one for transmit. And as we unpacked all of this stuff, I quickly realized that, wow, this is going to be hard. I have none of my gear, and it was supposed to be bring your own building gear. And at the same time, it was also extremely small components. I was looking very closely. I even brought my glasses and everything, and I was really trying to see the markings, and I couldn't. I had to zoom on my phone. I had to use my phone and zoom to 10 times magnification, then take a picture of that and then zoom that photo just to see the numbers and the letters on the capacitors. And it was really funny because I was sitting right next to Jeff, who was also building the same thing, and he would just pick up the piece, look at it really closely, and say, yep, that's a 47 cap. And I'm like, how do you even see that? It's like this really light orange lettering on a yellow capacitor. It was really hard for me. And I was looking around, and I was probably one of the younger people there. And so I could only imagine the difficulties others were having. A lot of people just said, I'm just going to continue this at home. I'm not going to do this. It's too hard. But several of us did complete our build. I got a good practice of winding toroids, courtesy of Jeff's help. So AA6XA, thank you very much for helping with that. And I was really concerned about the last piece, which is the transformer that you build. It's the bigger toroid, and it has something like 36 windings on it with you double up and you get a tap at one point. And no, I think it was like 36 and then 7 for a second winding or something like that. But essentially that one, I wasn't even sure if it would work because I wasn't sure about the stripping of the enamel from the magnet wire at the bottom. And Jeff assured me that you could just burn it off with the soldering iron. And by the way, he had an awesome soldering iron. It's a little portable thing. And I actually ended up ordering one myself, just recently. But yeah, that thing was great for just portable soldering iron. I have a Hacko in the garage, and that is not portable. It's really a soldering station. But yeah, so I'm working on this toroid, this transformer, and I'm thinking this isn't going to work. But someone had a multimeter, tested out the continuity between all of the leads, and it actually did work. So on completion, brought it up to the front, and there were a series of judges up there. A guy plugged in my Mighty Mite, turned on the power, and measured 0.22 watts of output power. And we were all trying to see who would get the most power. That person would win first place. I think the winner got 0.27 watts out of their Mighty Mite. So again, great event. If you ever get a chance to go to a convention or any kind of thing admittedly, Pacificon is a lot smaller than some of the other ham radio conventions that I've heard about. I know Dayton is the biggest one. Huntsville was the recent one where it seemed pretty big. There's Hamcation, sponsored by the ARRL. If you get a chance, go to these things because it's really great getting to see some of the latest products from vendors, but also just hanging out with other hams. And if you can, sign up for the hands-on things because that's where it really gets exciting. That's where it really engages you. And I was so motivated coming out of Pacificon that I actually went home and worked on an BNC mount end-fed half-wave by K6ARK. He sent me a kit. I asked him for stickers, and I think he sent me a kit. And so I've been putting that off because I just feared the toroid. I don't know if you can relate with that, or maybe you're scoffing at me right now, but I was like, I don't know if I can get these windings right But after going through the practice at Pacificon, I was highly motivated, and I said, I'm going to go for it. And I actually completed that, even after mounting the matching unit on the wrong side of the board and having to desolder it. Still was able to recover. And now I have to cut the length of wire, and weather has not been forgiving for that. So I will be doing that pretty soon, testing it out for 20 meters. And it will be something that I thought I couldn't do. And that all came from my motivation from being with other hams and building things with them. So yeah, check out, I think the next one that everyone is talking about is Hamcation next year in February, I believe. I'll have to look that up. I'll put a link in the show notes. But also Dayton, that should be happening next year. And if you can, go to these events. It's a really great time. It's a great time to hang out with other hams, learn things, go to the sessions. I went to several of the sessions at Pacificon and really picked up a lot of stuff, wrote some notes down, recorded them, and you get to meet a lot of hams that you've gotten to know online. So that's great. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks a lot again for listening to Hamdom Thoughts. We'll be back again, I think, in about 2 weeks. You've been listening to Hamdom Thoughts by AD6DM. Thanks a lot. We'll catch you again next time.